Iowa Live.
From the Carl Chevrolet Studios in West Des Moines, welcome to Iowa Live. I am Lou, and it is time to check in with Dr. Vince Hassel and talk about yet another way he can help people get healthy and feel better. Dr. Hassel, how are you this morning?
Wonderful. Thank you, Lou.
Yeah, we are going to talk about Des Moines Hyperbaric Oxygen Therapy Center. After our visit last time, so many people had comments about this. First of all, explain what hyperbaric oxygen therapy is.
Yeah, what it is, Lou, is a modality where a person sits in a chamber and the chamber takes them down below seawater of pressure. They're not in seawater, but like scuba diving, when a person goes down scuba diving, there's pressure on the body from that atmospheric pressure of below seawater, right? And so what happens with hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and the reason why we do it is because it drives oxygen under pressure into the plasma. The reason we'd want to do that is because our regular circulatory system is our arteries and our capillaries and our veins, and we learned about that in biology in high school, right?
Right.
And then we have our single file line red blood cells that picks up the oxygen from our lungs, goes through the arteries, and they have to get through the capillary in a single file line to deliver the oxygen and bring the carbon dioxide back to the lungs. What happens with aging, stresses, systemic inflammation, poor lifestyle, virus effects. It affects the quality of our microcirculation. And when the quality of the microcirculation is lesser than optimal, the single file line red blood cell cannot pass through there to bring oxygen to cells and tissues. So that those cells are called hypoxic. Hypoxic means they're not getting the oxygen. Oxygen is incredibly important to our cells and tissues for them to function. They need fuel and they need oxygen. And if they're not getting the oxygen, they're idling. The cells are sitting there idling. They're not revving. They're not running, creating ATP and optimal cell function. So that's what's going to affect and manifest symptoms in disease in a patient.
Right. If we could go to the touchscreen here, we'll show you some images here to show you about how these how the cells go through. And when he said the blood flow is restricted, and this actually does does it open up the pathway, Dr. Hassel, or does it give it new pathways?
It gives it new pathways after the fact. That's called angiogenesis, which is regrowth and regeneration of that capillary. So first, what happens is the oxygen gets pushed into the plasma because of the universal gas laws of physics. The oxygen, when under pressure, goes to smaller bubbles and can fit in smaller spaces. And a gas under pressure held over a liquid, the gas will be shoved into the liquid, like CO2, like a carbonated water, right?
Right.
And so that oxygen gets driven into our plasma that typically only carries 3% oxygen. All the oxygen gets to our body through our red blood cells. So when we drive that oxygen into the plasma, that plasma being liquid can get through and carry that gas of oxygen to the cells and tissues where the cell of the red blood cell, even though he's incredibly tiny, but so is the lumen, the hole of the red blood cell, the inside of the tube, that's where that capillary can't get through. So now the oxygen gets through, it feeds those cells that are hypoxic, they're not getting oxygen, it causes regrowth and regeneration of that microcirculation, and that's called angiogenesis. So then it can affect then stem cell release, regrowth and regeneration of the cells. So let's talk about brain injuries, traumatic brain injuries, dementia, cognitive decline, different things like that. Lou, you and I talked one time about Joe Namath.
Right.
Namath, football quarterback, right?
Right.
Had 5 concussions during his pro career, maybe more, but 5 that were documented. He was having problems with his cognitive function, right? And so they did what's called a SPECT scan of his brain, and it showed up all dark. It should show up like greens and yellows and oranges and blues because that's the metabolic function of the brain and how it's using glucose. So his cognitively, he wasn't doing well. He wasn't testing well on a cognitive test. He did 20 hyperbaric oxygen dives. He was testing better on the cognitive test, but his SPECT scan didn't change yet. 40 dives later, the SPECT scan started to change. Long story short, 120 dives later, his brain's brand new in its metabolic function. If you go watch the video with Howard Stern that Joe Namath had discussing this phenomena, it was also on like an ABC around Christmas time. Same story. It's not made up. It's a story that was his condition, his health condition, his issue, and hyperbaric oxygen therapy helped
All
help
right.
bring his brain back to full function.
Let's get people in touch with you so they can find out more about it. What's the easiest way to get a hold of you, Dr. Hassel?
Yep, real simple, Lou. They can call or text. Phone number is 515-270-2111. Check out the weight lot or the website behind Lou at DesMoinesHBOT.com. So many health conditions that people can be benefited with hyperbaric oxygen therapy.
All right, Dr. Hassel, that is awesome. You've hopefully opened some eyes, and soon we'll be changing some lives. We appreciate all your time.
Thank you, Lou.
All right, thank you so much.